Hi, everybody. It's Davis. I decided to record a video today because I just got back from a retreat in Ireland, and the retreat was for people who are interested in near-death experiences. It was hosted by a couple of identical twins, Jesse and Elliot Estrin, and an Irish mystic named Lorna Byrne, who is an amazing spirit who hosted us at her retreat center in Ireland. And I realized as I was there that people were actually interested in my story in a way that I don't think I realized the extent to which. So I thought I would just share it with you. It happened 13 years ago, and I've met a lot of people since then, and I realized that not everybody knows this part. So I thought I would share it. So 13 years ago, I was living in Chicago. I had dropped out of college. I was in a band. I was living a very free existence. I grew up in a wealthy area. Had a really privileged childhood, very blessed as a kid, and I'd always wondered what it would be like to have hardships. Now, that may sound strange to a lot of people, but for me, my heart always broke for people who went through stuff, because like not many people in my family died while I was young. I kind of I was never hungry. There was all these things that I heard about people that I wished I could understand what they were going through. It was kind of I just didn't get it. Probably the way that people felt about me and the way that I grew up. I ended up doing a lot of work with people with disabilities because I just was so interested in them, and knew that they were clearly going through things, and yet they still had this spark of life in them. I've always found that fascinating. And so I went to school for that, and actually ended up working with young children who had disabilities. That was what I was most interested in, because young kids are just so beautiful and bright. And I also was curious about that. How did they get to that point? So anyway, after I sort of had my own mental health crisis in college, I left to be with my brothers, my twin brother Charles specifically, but my brother Kent was there too, and I was excited to go to Chicago and spend time with them, because being with them meant a lot to me. So I was in a band. I was living in this kind of house that we all lived in near DePaul University, where most of the band members went, and Charles went too. And one morning on a Monday, I woke up and there had been a thunderstorm the night before. So it was this huge thunderstorm, and it was like the claps of thunder were sounded like they were happening above the bed. It was so intense, and I remember thinking, this day is there goes today, And I had just started doing this spiritual practice at the time, the Artist Way. If you ever heard of the Artist Way, I probably have it somewhere up here on this shelf. But it was given to me by my friend Jove, who I met in college, and it's basically like a spiritual recovery program for artists. And I was sort of just getting into spirituality. I'd always sort of had a loose sense of it. I grew up Episcopal. It never really connected with me. I got to play Jesus in high school and Godspell, which was an amazing experience, because I remember feeling like, wow, Jesus is so cool, but the people around me don't feel like this. Like the churches don't seem, this isn't the message I'm getting from the churches. There's this like radical forgiveness and spiritual upliftment, and holding people to a standard that felt different than the sort of like rule following dogma stuff that I was used to. So I was just kind of like, I was just exploring. And the Artist Way is all about tapping into your creative self, your higher self, to God, to it's sort of like AA where there's a higher power. It's like tapping into your higher power and using that to facilitate creativity. And every morning in the book, you're supposed to write morning pages. So we did that. We started our day journaling. I have an entry from that day, which is kind of amazing. And as I'm journaling, the sun comes out and it turns into this kind of magical day. So we decide to get on our bikes and we're biking through Chicago. We want to go to the beach because in Chicago in the summer, it's like a beach town. It's arguably the best city in the country during the summertime. I love it there. And I just remember when we were biking, it was remarkable how little noise there was. There were no car horns or dogs barking or people shouting like they almost always are in Chicago somewhere. It just wasn't happening like that. And it was really remarkable. So we go to the beach and we read some poetry. You know, we were living that artist lifestyle. And we had watched The Holy Mountain that morning, if you know that movie. And we were just really enjoying the beach. And we went down to Millennium Park later that day because they do free concerts in the park on Mondays, or they used to. And I can't remember who we saw, but it was amazing. And we were biking home, and Charles decided he was going to go off and make himself a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So I said, that's cool. I'm going to stop and get falafel. There was this $4, $3.99 sandwich, falafel sandwich at Sultan's Market at that time. And Jove asked for my key. He didn't have one, but he was staying with us. So I gave him the key and they rode off. And I got my sandwich. And part of the reason we felt so free is because 2 weeks before, because I dropped out of college, because I was hoping to pursue life as an artist, my parents basically said, you know, I was 21 years old. They had said, we're going to cut you off if you don't get your life together. So I felt very terrified and also free. I felt like really set free by that, because then it was like, wow, now I really have to do it. I really have to figure this out. Or I'll literally just have nothing. So that's why we were all about PB&J and falafel. Though I still am about that life. But I pulled up on my bike at this intersection of Clark and Diversey in Chicago, and I was next to this big 18-wheeler, and it wasn't really an 18-wheeler. It was like a Mack truck. It felt like an 18-wheeler, but I found out later it wasn't. But it still was like a huge truck, and I'm in between the truck and some parked cars. And I remember thinking like, wow, this guy's really close to me, but you know what? I'll let him pull ahead and go where he's going, and then I'll slip behind him, you know, so I can get back to the bike lane on Clark Street. And the thing about biking in Chicago is, you know, it's kind of like an extreme sport, you know, but I was used to it. I had done it for a year at this point, and I loved it. And it's how I got around. It's literally how I went everywhere. Loved it. I was very active. So he pulls forward and I pull forward. And as I'm trying to let him pass me, he ends up clipping me with a trailer, and I went under the back right tires of the truck. Now, I don't remember the impact so much. People often ask me that, but I do remember the feeling of being hit, or just something. It was like, boom, something happened, you know? And I woke up, I came to on the street, and I looked at my arm, which I don't know if you can see, there was a rock right there. I can't point and hold the camera, but you see that little scar. There was a rock in my arm and it was bleeding, and I was like, something's wrong, you know? And I'm looking around and I see all these people standing over me, almost like a movie, like, you know, they're all like, you know, like that. And I was like, what is happening? Why is everyone looking at me? Something must have happened to me. Of course, I feel no pain at all. I'm just confused, and I'm looking around, and they're all clearly very concerned. Well, this guy saw my accident. He had just gotten new glasses at like a glasses shop right nearby, and he was on his motorcycle, and he saw the truck landing back on the ground. he didn't see me get hit. No one saw me get actually hit. They just saw like things like that, or like, evidence, clues that would have led to some terrible thing happening. Well, he saw the accident, and he just apparently knew immediately he had to come run to get me. So he jumps off his bike and he leaves it running, puts the kickstand down, and runs over to me. Now, at the time, two people were trying to pull me off the street, which absolutely would have killed me. Fun fact for those of you, if you're ever in a situation where you need to save someone's life, it's best not to move them. I learned that through this. But he told him, he ran over, he said, "Don't move him. I'm a fireman. I know what I'm doing. Let me handle this." So he comes over and he's looking at me, and he's holding my head up. And I remember, like, he was holding my head up like this, and I remember I like patted his hand. I said, "Thank you," because at that time my lungs were collapsing. So I was losing so much blood. So the truck had crushed my pelvis, broken in 7 places. My femur was broken in half, my fibula, and it was severe damage, and I was dying. And the guy who saw it, as he's talking to me, and he said he was looking at me in the eyes, and he said he could see the light going out of my eyes. And so he knew he had to look at me. He'd never done this before, apparently, but he was looking at me. He knew that if he locked eyes with me, I would stay here. That's your other tip for if you're ever with someone who's dying. Try to look at them and give them that link back to life, because that's what he did for me. And then he kept asking me questions, which really kept me awake. I was pretty lucid, shockingly lucid. He asked me my name, of course. He asked me, I can't remember all the questions he asked me, but it was just a lot of things that kept me awake. I think I told him how to find my brother, how to tell him that something bad had happened, how to call my mom. Then the cops came, they took over, and I told them my mom's number, how to find Charles. Now, Charles's phone was like dead or lost or something. So I was like, "You got to go to my house. It's this address. It's on Seminary Avenue. You got to go in the back," because we live in the coach house. I was like very lucid, telling them a lot of things. And then the ambulance arrived, and it was one of those freakish moments where you hear the sirens, and you always hear sirens, but they're not always for you. Well, they were definitely for me. It was rush hour traffic. I was in the middle of an intersection. I was really in the way of society at the time. And so they put me on the ambulance, and I remember the guy waving at me saying, "Stay with me, Davis, stay with me, you're gonna make it." Now, one of the many miracles of this story is that I was a few blocks from a level 1 trauma center called Illinois Masonic, which was, if I had been anywhere else, I definitely would have died, because my injuries were so severe. I also happened to work at the Italian restaurant connected to the hotel called Pompeii at the time. So that was funny, because later they sent me food and stuff. But anyway, spoiler alert, I lived. But I'm in the ambulance. The guy says, I'm gonna see you stay with us. I get to the ambulance, or to the hospital, and the last thing I remember is Charles running in, my twin brother, crying like I've never seen him cry ever in my life. And he said, "I love you, Davis." I said, "I love you too." He said, "I'm here." I said, "I'm here too." I knew I wasn't gonna die, or if I was gonna die, it was gonna be fine. It was just like, I can't describe the peace. It was just pure peace. And Charles was a little bit like shocked by the peace, because when he was sent in to say that to me, he was actually being sent in to say goodbye. They told him, "We're gonna put him under, and we don't know if he'll ever come back." So that was the last thing I remember. And then I was in a coma for 5 days. While I was in the coma, the doctor, who was this very brusque Eastern European woman with very harsh bedside manner, was trying to save my life. Apparently she would go into the waiting room and just tell my family, like, we cannot find the bleeding, They'd ask questions like, "Is he going to be paralyzed?" They're like, "We can't even think about that right now, because if we don't find the bleeding, he will die." I lost so much blood that I was given 13 units of blood, um, which the body holds 12, I believe. So it was like an entire human's worth of blood, which is incredible. I was losing so much blood that my organs started to fail. So I had some of my large intestine and colon removed, and I was given an emergency colostomy bag, which I had for 7 months. And I thank God every day I no longer do, but it saved my life, and I'm eternally grateful for that. Um, and she was eventually able to find the source of the bleeding. It was in the mesentery region, which is something I don't even know about, but it's that area in your pelvis that can be, there's just a lot of stuff going on down there. And if that ruptures, I'm sure all the medical people who are seeing this know what I'm talking about, but you know, it's funny. I have like some of the medical stuff at arm's length just because it's so intense. I want to learn it. I want to go get them records and figure it all out. But um, they found the source of the bleeding and they stopped it, and they saved my life. My mom saw the doctor getting on the elevator one day, and my brother Kent had already said that she had like really rough bedside manner. But my mom just wanted to thank her for saving my life. She said, "Thank you for saving my son's life." And the doctor said, "I didn't save his life. God did. I didn't know what to do." And then she says something like, she's like, "I just moved my hands," which is just, I just heard that from my mom a couple weeks ago, and it just kind of knocked me out. That's incredible. They actually gave me a 1% chance to live. And I always say they give me a 1% chance because science can't justify zero. So I really shouldn't be here at all. I also shouldn't be walking. I was not wearing a helmet, and I didn't have any brain damage or spinal cord injury. I was millimeters from paralysis. I had my bottom spinal vertebrae were chipped on the wings. The bottom two had chips on them off the sides, but no main damage there, which is incredible. They were able to put a plate in my pelvis. They put a rod in my femur. They had to go through my knee. So I do have knee problems, but they had to put it through my knee since my pelvis was so messed up. And then the fibula actually healed on its own because, and I was given chest tubes and stuff for my collapsed lungs, but they basically, I was never in a cast, which is funny. I'd never broken a bone in my body, and then I just broke all of them. So when I woke up from the coma, I said, I don't remember saying this. I literally have no memory of this, but my mom was in the room and she heard me say it. I said, "I saw an angel on Clark Street." And if anybody knew me at that time, they would have known my spiritual journey was different. You know, I was raised Christian. I used to call myself an atheist after that, and nobody really believed me. I didn't really even believe myself. I just was sort of frustrated with religion and all that stuff. And I was talking to my friend Peter, who's like he was kind of he's an atheist type, and I told him I believed in love, and I wondered if that still made me an atheist. And he said, "Well, what do you think love is?" I was like, "I think it's this power that sort of dictates everything, and we're all sort of subject to it, and there's nothing we can do about it. We just have to sort of submit to it, and it's this thing that like it's what makes you want to do something or not want to do something, or to be with someone or whatever. It's what makes you love a certain song or a certain tree or whatever. It's like this thing, right?" And he was like, "Well, then you're not an atheist because you're describing like a divine thing." And I was like, "Oh, well, then I'm a lovist." That's what I call myself. And then after that, once I discovered the artist way, I was like, "Oh, I guess maybe I'll just tell people I'm an artist." Well, when I woke up and said I saw an angel on Clark Street, that just wasn't in my vocabulary. That was not something I would have thought to have said. It's not, that kind of thing just wasn't that just wasn't where I was at. Well, a few days go by, and somebody comes to visit me in the hospital, and he's telling everyone that he was with me at the accident, and nobody knows who he is because no one was with me. I was completely alone. So everyone's like, "Who the heck is this guy?" But my mom knew that it was the angel that I was talking about. Well, he walks in, he's big, burly, tank top, bandana, big smile, so happy to see me, grabs me with his, big meaty hands, he's like, Davis, I'm so glad you made it. And and he's looking at me in the eyes, and I remember his eyes from the street, and then he tells me his name, and of all names in the entire world, it could have been Stephen, could have been, Lorenzo, but his name was Art, which to this day still blows my mind. I was saved by a man named Art. My angel is Art. And so now when I tell people I'm an artist, it means something even more to me now, because Art saved my life. And part of the reason I haven't told this story very much, like especially in these moments, the way I'm going to do it today is it's a heavy story. It's really big. And it doesn't feel real, because I haven't even described the part where I actually died, which I'll do now. But it changed everything for me. So when I died, which I can't tell if this happened on the street or if it was the coma, because the damage was so severe. It's hard to really fathom how much my body went through at that time. But the thing that I felt more than anything was a complete state of peace. When I died, I suddenly felt like I was in space. I was really the strongest feeling I had was that I was home. I was back. I was back to where it all began. The source, you could call it. I was with God. I was like, literally, if God is everything, then I was everything, and everything was me, and it was all this huge thing that I was just a tiny speck of. But but even though I'm a tiny speck, I'm still everything. It's sort of like how we're all made of stardust. At the end of the day, if you boil us all down to the very tiny things that we are, that is what we are, and that is what I was, and that is what I am, and that is what I experienced. And it was all love. It was just pure love. I'm getting chills and tears come to my eyes thinking about it, because it was just pure love. I've never felt something like that before in my life. I have actually, because it's where we all come from. It's where we all come from, and it's where we all go when we die. I am sure of that. That is one thing I know for sure. And I had no fear. Time was gone. Money was gone. No rent, no shame, no guilt, no anything, no pain, no body, no gravity, none of the things that hold us and keep us, no society, none of the stuff that man has made, that we're so subjected to all the time. No job, no alarm clocks, none of that stuff. It was gone. It was gone. It was just pure love, pure essence, pure everything. Excuse me. It was like being home. My friend, I did meet someone, a few people who have had near-death experiences. Shout out to David Williamson and Sachi, my friend Sachi. She used this term, and it made me cry when she said it, so I'll use it here too. I felt like I was sinking back. Felt like the way I describe it is I was like sinking into a warm tub, the way that it's like after like a long day of, like, if you say you went on a full day hike or something in the cold, and then you sink into a warm tub and your body just goes crazy. It felt like that, but times 1,000, and I felt like I was sinking back into the womb of creation. That's what Sachi called it, the womb of creation. That's exactly what it felt like. I was back, and it was stunning. And when I woke up, I remember that's probably why I said I saw an angel on Clark Street, because the other thing I wanted to tell everybody was, guys, we're gonna be okay. Like, we're gonna be fine. It's just love. It's all love. There's nothing to be afraid of. Like, there's nothing. It's just, that's it. It's just pure love. And all we're here to do on earth is to love. That is our destiny. That is why we're here. And I couldn't wait to tell that to everybody. Of course, the challenge with having a near-death experience like that is that, as my wife reminds me regularly, not everybody has that experience, and we're all still here on earth, so it can be hard to receive that. I woke up and tried to tell my mom, my dad, my brothers, my sister. I tried to tell everybody about how much, like, that they're loved and that love is everything, but they were destroyed by my accident. They had to imagine me dead for 5 days, and it really just ripped the scab off of my family, and it was there was a deep pain that was revealed in my family at that time. And unfortunately, it's still this day, it's like the thing that changed us, and in a lot of ways broke us, and that's part of the journey, is our healing journey as a family, to figure out how to do that. But the still inside of me, the love was still there. I couldn't understand why everyone was so fighting, and why everyone was so mad at each other, and why everyone, like, no one had tolerance for each other. I was just like, guys, it's just love, it's just love. But I was so weak that I couldn't do anything to help. So I, as I'm recovering, I'm coming back into consciousness. I remember I was in the ICU in Chicago. So I remember one night I was there, and this guy was moaning. And I asked the nurses, I said, I was so weak. And I was like, what's wrong? And she said he was shot. And I just said, please tell him he's going to be okay. Like, that was like, it's like I just wanted everyone to know that they're going to be okay. It's like, if you take nothing from this story, just know that, like, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. Whatever you're shaming yourself about, whatever you're feeling bad about, whatever rules you think you have to follow to get to heaven, or whatever the thing is, like, just be gentle on yourself, be kind to yourself, and then do that to others. Be kind to others and be gentle to others. We're all going back home. We're just here to grow. We're here to love and evolve. You can't spell evolve without love. We are here to help each other grow. And if we do anything that tears each other down, then we already know we know that's not what we're supposed to do. We know, what you're supposed to do. We all already know. But we're all going to be okay. So don't stress out about it. Don't worry about it so much. It's just, just do your best. We're all doing our best. And if we're not doing our best, we know we're not doing our best. So just try to do better. Just be gentle, though. Be kind. Be brave. Be brave enough to love and to be strong. That's what I wanted to tell everybody. So I was on a 7-minute happy button, is what they called it. Dilaudid was coursing through my system to help me mitigate the pain. But what's interesting is that after about a week is the first time I started to feel pain. And this is when I started to believe in prayer, as the idea of when people send their thoughts, their prayers, they pray for you, they're sending loving energy, whatever their thing is, whatever they describe as like the connection to my story. Fortunately for me, I had made a lot of connections in my life, and I'm a twin, so I basically take a normal gregarious, like, public facing, I'm an actor, a musician, public facing person, and multiply that by 2. I just had all these people in my life, and I'd already done a lot of traveling. So I felt like people were, when they prayed for me in my recovery, it was like they were all taking little pieces of my pain away. And so I really was like, I felt so held. It was like one of those maps of like a flight map showing all the like as if, like, imagine I was Atlanta, and I'm in all of the prayers, or like all the Delta flights coming to me, and they're taking a little bit of my pain away. I felt like collectively, like my family, my earth family, everybody here was helping me by taking my pain away. It was incredible. And so I was in the hospital for a month. I was in a wheelchair for 3 months. I was on a walker for 6 weeks. I was non-weight bearing, so I had to learn how to walk again. I rehabbed in Birmingham. I flew down here to Birmingham because it was going to be a long road to recovery, and my family wanted me to be here, and so they brought me back, and it was really a blessing. It was hard at first because I missed all my people, but it was where I needed to be, and I was able to do all that. I was on a cane for 9 months after that, and my recovery was incredible. Actually, I was on Oxycontin for a while, prescribed, and I got off of it 6 weeks before I was supposed to because I hated the way I felt, and it was one of the first examples I've ever had of realizing that I was like really powerful about my own healing, that I could heal things way faster than any doctor had told me, that all the things that we're told to believe aren't necessarily true, and that we have a lot more power in what we're able to do than we've ever known. I recovered way faster than the doctors believed, and part of that was my youth, part of that was my being athletic already. But a lot of that was this love that I was just like, I have to share this with everyone. And so that's my mission now. That's literally what I do. I'm an artist. That's what I tell people when people ask me what I am. I say I'm an artist. And what that means to me is anything where I share love through art. And my art is mostly singing and playing guitar these days. I'll be sharing some of the music that I've been doing soon, just because I think people have told me to, and I'm sick of being scared of how people might react to it, because again, the story can be kind of intense, but it's literally my story. It's all I have. So I'm sharing it with you, and I hope that I'm able to share more love, and hopefully I can impact somebody somewhere and help them know that they're not alone. You're not alone. I literally believe my mission and our mission, if you're an artist and you're hearing this, our mission is literally to break people's hearts just a little bit so that the light can get in and so that the light can get out. You have God inside of you. God is love. That is, you need to know that. God is love. If people talk about God, they're talking about love. If they complicate it with fear, it's not true. That's my experience. God is love. God is love. God is love. And if you're loving, and if your heart says yes, then do it. And if your heart says no, then don't. And it's like, it's everything is right here. That's why I got this tattoo, because Charles Jove and I, the two people I was with at the accident, we all have our heart tattoos, because the heart is where the art comes from, and the art is just prayer. Art is prayer, and God is love, and the heart is where God talks to us and where we talk to God. So if I can do anything to crack your heart a little bit so that God can get in, so that love can get in, and so that you're love and that the God in you can come out, namaste, the God in me sees the God in you. If you can do that, if I can do that, then I've done something, and I can die happy. And that's the biggest thing I also want to say. We have nothing to be afraid of with death. It's coming for all of us. I hope this isn't shocking news. It's the one thing we know is going to happen. It's going to happen to all of us. And as long as you are listening to your heart, loving in every way, whether it's through service or listening to a friend or holding someone who's hurting or raising beautiful babies like I get to do now, which is amazing. I work with preschoolers too. If anything that you can do that makes you feel like you're serving everything, all things, as long as you're not living in fear, which fear would be control, ego, worry, materialism, anything like that where you're afraid you don't have enough or anything like that, that isn't serving you. That is a trap that we fall into while we're here. All you have to do is love. All you need is love. The Beatles said it, Martin Luther King said it, Gandhi said it, Nelson Mandela said it, Mother Teresa said it, Jesus said it, Buddha said it, Muhammad said it, Hafiz said it, everybody. If you look for love, it's everywhere. You're part of it. I'm part of it. We're all part of it. And if you didn't know it before today, I have good news for you. It's all love. It's all love, and it's all gonna be okay. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for letting me share my story, and I hope to share more in the future, but I just felt like sharing this with you today. I love you very much. See you when I see you.